Hi, Heather.
Hi, Krista.
How's it going?
It's going well. It's
Good.
yeah, it's been really beautiful here on the island. I went for a sunset swim last night, which was
Oh,
really
nice.
a lovely thing to do at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
but I realized I was editing the video last week and I realized you always ask me how I'm doing and I ever never ask you back. And I feel a little, how was your weekend, Krista? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I had a fairly quiet weekend. I must have needed to catch up on sleep yesterday because I slept until like 11 in the morning, which is
Go
not usually
you.
like me. And I woke up and I was very disoriented because like time traveling when you don't expect to sleep in like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I had a very nice weekend.
Good.
Thanks for asking.
Finally I
Um,
caught on.
to be fair, we do have the same conversation about how we're doing, like before we start recording.
Well,
So
that's
I
part of
don't,
it. Yeah, we have
yeah,
it off camera, so yeah,
yeah.
that's part of
So
the reason
just
I
in
don't
case
know.
anyone was worried that, that
I
Heather was
have
taking
already
up all
checked
the
in with
air,
you.
she
Yeah.
has checked in. I promise. Um, yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks, just sort of as we're thinking about the webinar coming up on Thursday about nervous system regulation. And I think we had a really fun sort of conversation about that a couple of weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
But I was, as we were talking the last hour and a half before we hit record, um, one of the things that has been coming up for me in as I'm having my little mini existential crash out this morning is this concept that I've sort of been grappling with of radical acceptance of what is, which borrows a bit from Buddhism and stuff like that. And I guess I what I would love is to just pick your brain a little bit about how being radically accepting of what is different than a nihilistic sort of giving up on
Hmm.
ever things ever being better. And then too thinking about the passing of both Andrea Gibson, the poet, and Joanna Macy, who has been very active in I don't know, I would call her an environmental poet to some extent.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's a very, very deep thinker on the environment and a bit of a I would say both of those people have been very influential, both in your
Hmm.
own thinking and mine too. And I think they embodied a lot of what I'm trying to unpack a little bit with
Yeah.
this idea of being radically accepting of what is without slipping into nihilism. Um, so yeah, so I wondered if you wanted to sort of
Yeah.
unravel a few of your thoughts in that vein as we
Yeah.
think about regulation for our nervous systems and
Yeah.
all of that sort of
Yeah.
bowl that we're looking at in the next week.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about this, and I've been thinking about this a lot for the last several years. And I think when it really started to come to a bit of a head for me, was during the year that my friend Randy was dying,
Mm,
because that was such a it felt kind of revolutionary for me to go through that experience with someone who was in such acceptance of his coming death. And it's a little bit the way we've witnessed, especially Andrea Gibson, as
yeah.
they've gone through, I think, 4 or 5 years of cancer treatments and ups and downs of that, and yet writing the most beautiful poetry and just being so um, finding joy and acceptance. And it's similar to my experience with Randy too, is like he was, and he said, like, once he knew he was going to die, it was like, okay, this is going to happen. It's been sort of this existential dread for all of us, all
Mm-hmm.
of our lives,
Yes.
that that's a potential, but then almost went, and I heard Andrea Gibson, I listened to an interview with them just this weekend, of them talking about that. It's like almost like once death actually comes to meet you in the face, like once you have that much more intimate relationship with the potential of it, it's like it's not as scary because it's not a monster in the closet anymore. It's like it's entered the
Mm,
room and now you're in relationship with it. And that was my experience with Randy too. It's like, okay, now this is a reality of what my not distant but fairly near future is going to involve, and how can I
right.
now build a relationship with death almost so that I can be in acceptance of it. And and I like would ask Randy a lot of questions about that because that's the kind of relationship we had. He's always been kind of one of my spiritual companions in that. It's
Yeah.
like, how do you come to peace with that? And he, some of his response was that it was very much in his, he had a contemplative prayer practice or mindfulness practice. He was learning that radical acceptance. And I know I've shared that story many times about the
Mm-hmm.
fly. Like, can
Mm-hmm.
I'll just share it again briefly, but he was lying in bed and he had ALS, so he had very, very limited movement. In the end, he could only move one of his arms a few inches from his body and couldn't feed himself or care for himself. And he was lying in bed
Yeah.
and couldn't move. And there was a fly that kept landing on his face and he could do nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he realized that his practice that day was asking himself the question, can I be with a fly? And that has become kind of my spiritual mantra since then. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, this is true, this is real, and can I be with it? And I hear that in Andrea talking about death, and I hear that in Joanna Macy talking about environmental collapse and what we're doing to the planet. And this is present now. Can I be with it? Can I live with it in and it's a kind of surrender. And I even heard Andrea talking about their relationship with the word surrender. Like some of it
Mm.
is just accepting that the river is flowing. Can I just lean into the boat I'm in and flow with it? And I've taken, I've taken up kayaking recently, and there are times when I have an inflatable kayak. It's nothing too fancy, but there are times when it's like I'm just going to accept the waves the way they're moving, and then there are
Mm.
times when I'm going to fight against it because I want to go in that direction instead of that direction. And, I do think we have to fight against the waves when we see what's happening in the world right now. There are a lot of waves
Mm-hmm.
that we've got to resist. We've got to move against the cruelty that we're seeing play out in some of
Yeah.
especially in the US with immigration policies and the way people are getting harmed and healthcare taken away from them. We have to resist that. We can't just go in the flow of what feels like evil to me. But there are things that we can simply be present with and like look them in the face, as I say, with
Yeah.
death and develop our practices. And Joanna Macy has a lot of teaching around that. She talks about the work that reconnects, like going into your grief, going into your fear, and then remembering to lean into your gratitude and your love for the world and your love for people and your love for yourself and how can that be our spiritual practice in the face of what feels like the world collapsing, and that's kind of where my spiritual quest is these days, alongside some of those teachers that I've had, like Randy in person,
Mm.
and my friend Brenda was also wrestling with that as she was dying of cancer around the same shortly after Randy
Yeah.
died. And then Joanna and Andrea. It's like I look to these people who are guiding that kind of living as though you're dying and living as though
Yeah.
the planet is dying even, and how can we be present in that with
Yeah.
grace and still resistance of the things that we cannot tolerate, um
Yeah.
but leaning into how can I be at peace still in the midst of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, just, to play on your boat analogy a little bit as you were speaking, I was thinking, yeah, like obviously I'm going to speak out if I see someone shoving people out of the boat,
Yeah,
or if I see people actively being harmed, like, that is not a go with the flow thing. Like that
yeah,
is toxic, whatever. Um, yeah, not even just toxic. I think it can be downright cruel at times.
yeah,
But in the same breath, resisting the fact that the environment is collapsing or resisting the fact that I will one day die is futile because both of those things are happening.
yeah, yeah,
Every day I wake up, I am one day closer to my death. I mean, that happens from the moment you're born to some
yeah,
extent, right?
yeah,
Um, and it
yeah,
doesn't make it easy necessarily, but fighting it, I think, can cause a lot of misery too.
yeah,
Um,
And I do think I think it's a journey, and I
Yeah,
don't think that you just get to that place. And it's been, like I say, it's been a years long kind of quest for me,
for sure.
wanting to understand this and wanting to have the spiritual practices that equip me for it. It's not one day I woke up and I was just accepting of everything. And I think the journey will take you through places of rage. It will take you through places
Hmm.
of despair, despondency, just like the nihilism you talk about, that those feel like places on the journey that we can't deny.
Mm,
And I think
yeah,
we're talking about nervous system soothing, or not just soothing, but nervous system holding space for our nervous systems
yeah,
on this Thursdays. And one of my points in that is like we can't just go to the soothing, because that's more
right.
like numbing. Like we have to let ourselves go through. It's like going back to the boat. It's like
Yeah,
if there are rapids that we have to get through, we have to get through them, and we have to let ourselves experience the fear of that and the intensity of that
for sure.
experience rather than going into dissociation kind of mode. Um, but A, there are practices that support us going through those big
Yeah.
emotions. We can be more and we can hold that collectively. I think that's a really, really important
Hmm.
thing that we you and I talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, not to deny it, go through that journey and go deeper and deeper into like, okay, so how can I live with this? So what's
Yes.
the next learning in my journey to get closer to that? And so not rushing to that, but going through the places you need to go before, like again, the water analogy. It's
Yeah.
like you get through the rap. And I just recently I watched a video, it was fascinating, of this group of veterans who were kayakers like they would go through the rapids, and they were
Right.
all disabled in some way, and one was blind.
Oh,
And
wow.
they did this multi-day journey through the Grand Canyon, which is a lot of wild water.
Right.
And he is navigating the rapids blind, largely by listening to his fellow
Wow.
kayakers telling him how to navigate. This is a bit of a rabbit trail, but it feels related too. It's like
Totally.
somehow he's able to settle his nervous system enough to be fully present to all his senses as he's navigating the rapids without the visual cues to tell him what's coming up. And his friends are
Yeah.
beside him and around him. They're in their own kayaks and
Right.
telling him what's coming and stuff. And it was such a fascinating thing to witness. And so it feels a little like we are that blind kayaker, like
Yeah.
that's going through, and somehow we have to support ourselves and listen to each and be present. Like I don't think he could do that alone, that he had this group
No.
of people doing it with him. And it
But
feels
that
like
the group
that's
of people was able to also calm their nervous system enough to be able to communicate well enough to him. That's
yeah,
also pretty remarkable to me
yeah,
because, I mean, when you're in the moment and just trying to navigate, like to be able to verbalize what's happening, like that
yeah,
takes some grounding too.
yeah. Yeah,
So
like
maybe
talk
we're
about
both, maybe,
co-regulation. Like
yeah,
you're present in a moment with each other where you're
exactly.
working on, and I think this really this just came to my mind, but we talk in our program, we
It's
talk
a,
about being a
yep,
grounded guide. And I mean this little group of people, they work as grounded guides
yep,
together. And I
together.
think they would say, and I want to be clear on, it's not just the people with sight who are guiding the other person. Like the
Mm-mm.
person without sight is providing valuable information and
Feedback.
helping them pay attention to things they wouldn't normally need to pay attention to because of his
Yep,
impairment. And so I think the whole collective, and one of them has no legs, like they're all disabled in some way, this group.
right,
And so they're all providing something valuable to the other as they navigate this rough water to each other. And it's coming from the place of their limitation that they're offering something
sure.
too. So there's a whole layer, lots of layers
Oh, I love
of,
that.
of inspiration in this. I need
Totally.
to dig it up and send you a copy of it
Yeah,
because it was
definitely.
really
Please do.
fascinating.
We'll have to include it in the
Yeah.
description
Yeah, I'll do
in
that.
Substack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so great. I love that so much. There was some, oh yeah, I was thinking about your Where Tenderness Lives little mini book. It's a free book that you can get through the Center for Holding Space, Where Tenderness Lives.
Yeah.
And you talk about tenderness being this person who is in the house of yourself and invites all of the different emotions in. Anyway, it's a lovely little read, but I was thinking
I'll
just
link to that as
about,
well in the
yeah, I
show
do.
notes. Yeah.
But I was thinking about how helpful that's been for me in trying to practice some of this present stuff, because I have spent a lot of time judging those harder emotions like
Mhm.
anxiety and fear and anger. But be having that permission to invite them in and to sit with them. Like I was having a little bit of anxiety this morning, just sort of this low level, sort of vague kind of anxiety. And I was like, no, like it's okay. What is it trying to tell me? What does it need? What do I need? What do I need in this moment? Like trying not to rush it away and getting
Yeah.
frustrated with it, but just trying to be with it. And even that I think is a good start for me anyway in practicing being present. Because I think
Yeah.
sometimes, when faced with all the chaos of the world, you're like, how do I be present for all of it all at once? And that's impossible. But I can be
Yeah.
present for this niggling anxiety right now, and I can sit with
Yeah.
this and say, hey, we're safe. It's going to be okay. What do you need?
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And for me, there's been a number of times when I've had that consistent niggling anxiety that just won't leave. And it's
Yeah.
like, I try everything
Yeah.
to like soothe it, to work with it, to like all of my tools I throw at it kind of
Yep.
thing. And it's like, it's not going away. And
Yeah.
it's happened to me more times than I can count that all of a sudden something, I'll listen to some music or something that
Mm.
evokes grief, and all of a sudden I'm weeping, and I realize
Yeah.
that the anxiety was actually masking some deep grief that needed to come out.
Hmm.
And like I'll end up having a really good cry. And it's like I say, it's a sad song or
Yeah.
something that evokes it. And it's like that's what settled it. It was
Yeah.
like that there was something in me that needed expression and it
Yeah.
didn't know how to get my attention, maybe. And so it showed up as anxiety. And
Yeah.
until I was willing to like lean into what was really present, I couldn't
Yeah.
release it. So it's again, if I just try to numb it or go to soothing, I'm denying something deeper that wants to be
Yeah.
expressed in me. And so I think that's we'll talk more in the webinar
Yeah.
about some of the
Absolutely.
kind of red flags or cautions around some of the common discourse on on nervous system um,
Soothing. Yeah.
soothing and regulation and stuff. And one of those things is that we're doing some things that are actually numbing rather than
Yeah.
soothing.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think it relates to, we've talked about the importance of the pause and having patience in that pause. And you sent me a really good article. We're going to have so many links in this particular video, but an article about compression and how much of our culture has just been compressed, and like, everything has to be instant. And so it's like you feel this pressure that even your nervous system has to be soothed immediately. And
Yeah,
we get frustrated when it takes longer than a minute or two, right?
yeah.
Which is kind of ridiculous, because especially if you've experienced trauma, like it doesn't just turn on and turn off like that.
No. And I have to admit, like, I feel really privileged in my lifestyle right
Yes,
now that I can give myself spaciousness for what I couldn't at one
for
time in my
sure.
life. And I know you're much more in the thick of things of having to, like, you've got a family to support and you've
Yep,
got much more commitment that just doesn't allow you that spaciousness
totally,
to let your
totally.
nervous system settle. And like I say, last yesterday I was in an agitated state, and after trying to do many things, I ended up going for a swim
Yeah.
at sunset, and that was what did it. But if I had young kids that were tucked into bed, I wouldn't have that option to do that.
No,
And so I totally recognize that we're all in different states, and some of us don't have the spaciousness
yeah,
to do that. But then we have to figure out how to support each other in doing that. And like, how
totally.
can I, like, I see a mom that's really stressed out with young kids. Like, how can I give her a day to just let her nervous system kind of settle a little bit? Like, what are the ways that we can
Yeah.
support our community in
But
that?
even just, I think accepting that that's where you're at right now can be helpful, because I mean, I've caught myself many times going, oh, I can't wait until XYZ, right? But it's like, no, like this is what my life is right now.
Yeah.
This is the level of busyness that I happen to have to cope with, or that I've chosen. or that I have to engage in order to, do the things that I need to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot right now, but it is what it is right now. And it will change because it has changed for me over the years, right?
Yeah.
And
Your
so
kids aren't as young as they were in the,
absolutely, absolutely. So even just being able to go, yes, this is how it is right now,
yeah.
it can just like bring it down enough to be like, okay, yeah, no, I have enough resources to do this right now.
Yeah.
And if that is not the case, then that's a sign to me that I have to ask for help, right? That, yeah,
Well, and that going to that place, what you're talking about asking for help, and this is something, and we should probably wrap this up sooner. We're going to end
probably.
up talking about everything we're going to be talking
We'll go
about
for
on
another hour
Thursday.
and a half at this rate, yeah.
We could go there. But what I was going to say is this idea, and we've gotten so far away from that in many ways, about the communal, the collective
Yeah.
nervous system.
Yes.
And that's part of why, like, I don't, as much as I realize I have privilege to have more time to soothe my nervous system, I also realize I'm going into my elder years very
Yeah.
soon. And so I want to be committed to, on behalf of the collective, doing what needs to be done so that I can be grounded in support of those that
Hmm.
are in my life that are not in this place. And
Yeah.
you're one of those people. You're not quite here. So what can I do to be, I don't know, an island of calm for you
Yeah.
and for my children and for other people? Like, how can we collectively offer that to each other too,
Yes.
recognizing that some are out there on the front lines and
Yeah.
some of us are the grounded people that are the oasis, as it
Yeah.
were. So
Yeah.
that's the other side of it is too, you knowing that you're in that moment in your life, but there are places to go where there is some
Yes. Yeah.
some calm
100%.
available to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we should wrap this up because
We
it's
should.
getting anyway. Lots more to come. Come join our
Yes.
webinar on this Thursday at what time is it at you? Noon?
You're
Noon
asking the
Pacific
most
time,
time zone
2
challenged person.
p.m. Oh my gosh, this is why we have a team because this is an area where we often need help. I believe it's noon Pacific time
I will post it
and
in the
2
show notes
p.m.
just to make sure. Yeah,
Central Daylight
I
Savings
think
Time.
that's right. Yeah.
But our website has the accurate information, so you can check there too. And also, registration is open for the Holding Space Foundation program. Lots of good information there about some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, all of our programs are great, obviously, but
Well, and we've put a lot of thought and a lot
yes,
of research, and so we draw
so
on a
much.
lot of wise teachers when it comes to these
Mhm.
ideas. We're not just pulling things out of the air. Like
No,
like even I was trying to create the resource list for the webinar, and after creating the whole
it's
webinar,
it's
the
huge.
resource list, like
I
it's
know. I
long,
got to the
and
end. I'm like, woo.
I didn't even include everything. So it's yeah, there's a lot of really good content, and so yeah, know that we're thinking about these things in a really deep and intentional
Yeah,
way, and we want to
definitely.
offer something from that to you.
Absolutely. So we will see you on Thursday, hopefully. And yeah, until our next coffee break. I'm Krista. This is Heather. I don't know, I'm reintroducing us again, but follow us here in Substack, obviously. There's lots of free stuff on our website, centerforholdingspace.com. If you look in the little resources tab, you'll see everything, or the Learn with Us, I believe we've called it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you have questions, feel free to be free. Blah, 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 blah. If you have questions about why I can't speak anymore, it's perimenopause. But if you have questions about our programs, feel free to reach out
Yeah.
to us. Okay, we'll let everyone go now. Till next week, Heather.
All right. Bye.
Bye.